Hey guys, and welcome back to another Cultured Boys discussion. I'm Pepe, and I'm joined by Nathan. And today we're talking about Sonic again, but more specifically, Sonic Prime on Netflix. That's right. Like, if you might have listened to our previous Gudetama video, we did mention about Sonic Prime, and we said we were toying with the idea of maybe doing an episode on it. And today, here we are. It's a Sonic Prime episode. Yay!
Gotta go fast.
Yeah. We've also done like a previous Sonic episode before, haven't we, Nathan?
Yeah, it was tentatively called retrospective. We use that term very loosely. I know retrospective normally means people will go through like the entire history of everything. We just sort of call it that because we didn't know what else to call it. It's our history with the franchise.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of just like being nostalgic about Sonic, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so here we actually got a specific Sonic subject we're going to talk about. We'll try and cover it as well as we can.
Well, you sound so enthusiastic about this.
Okay, yeah. I've made my thoughts clear on when I last watched Sonic, so this will be an interesting discussion, I'm sure. Do you want to give us a rundown of the premise of this, Nathan?
Okay, so Sonic Prime is basically Sonic going through the multiverse. It's created when Robotnik tries to take the Paradox Prism. Sonic tries to stop him, but in a very Sonic way. Instead of hitting Eggman, he hits the prism. And then it shatters and creates the multiverse, or the Shatterverse, as they call it. And it's basically that's it. It's just his adventures across the Shatterverse. It's also not that long, and we haven't. It's not even finished yet. It's only got 8 episodes so far, and it sort
Oh
of
wait,
ends.
so it's a weekly one then, is it?
I don't know. Like it just ends on a cliffhanger.
Okay.
So there's clearly more to go from the way it ends. Like we'll get to it eventually. Like we'll discuss that. But yeah, right now there was only 8 episodes to watch.
Interesting. Okay, so it doesn't even have a proper ending by what you
No.
said. Because I've only watched the one episode of
Oh, okay.
this.
I will say I watched it the whole way through twice. Like my
Yeah.
first viewing personally, I watched all 8 episodes,
Okay.
and this time around I watched all 8 again.
Interesting. Okay, like so, I feel like this is kind of like the opposite of Gudetama for us.
Yeah, it
In the
is
way
for
that
sure.
I put myself through Gudetama, even though I wasn't a massive fan of it. I still put myself through it. You only watched like the 1 or 2 episodes, whereas
Yep.
this time, for me, this is a struggle, right? Because I watched episode 1 before, and I must have dropped off halfway through because
Wow.
I watched the whole of episode 1 this time round, and still decided not to continue. But yeah, this is something. It is worth saying as well. This is something I was actually really excited about, like before it came out.
Yeah, we were actually. I think we might have mentioned it in another episode. I think
Yeah,
it might have been the Sonic episode,
it probably was
close
because
to
I think
the end of it.
that's when it was announced. Yeah.
Yeah, we were hyped for this because we were like we were waiting for this whole like renaissance for Sonic, like this like return to form.
Yeah.
But I will mention, I think this time round it's a reversal, because
Mhm.
you know how last time in Gudetama you're like, oh, I'm a big fan of the character. That's why you watched more episodes than me. I feel like it's the same here. I loved Sonic as a kid, so I think that's why I watched
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah, I can see. But like, what did you think of the story though? Like the whole like in episode 1, like I thought like because obviously I don't have much more to go off
Yeah.
of. But okay, I'm gonna give you my grievances straight off the bat.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
really early days into the episode. But okay, this is why I kind of struggled with it a little bit. I think it's something I probably would have liked as a kid.
Hmm.
But for me, the humor and some of like I don't know, some of the it just didn't really get me. Like I think it just I got the jokes, but I was like, okay, not really finding it that entertaining. Also, the runtime is an hour, like roughly an hour long, 45 minutes long for the first
Okay.
episode.
I'm surprisingly, for probably for anyone who heard all that previous bit, I actually agree with you on all this. it's a
Yeah.
kid show. I also
Yeah.
didn't really laugh at any of the jokes. I also thought the runtime was a bit long,
Yeah.
but I just stuck with it because it was a new Sonic,
Is it like an hour, like 45 minutes, an hour long every episode?
pretty much.
Really? Jesus, I thought it might be like the one off, and then it's like that's
No, it's
way
there's
too
like
long, bro.
it's because of that there's times where you can actually just drop out and come back,
Yeah.
and seemingly nothing has happened. Like the first time I watched it, that's what I did. I just stopped paying attention, and then I'd drop back in and be like, "Oh, okay, cool. Stuff happened." You and chances are the thing you missed was like some extra plot in that one world, but that's it.
Hmm. That's the one thing, like, the fact you can just do that within a series, I don't know, it just seems a bit weird to me. But, like, I don't know, like, I can even get on board with most, like, kids shows. This is the one thing, like, I could easily watch, like, something that probably is more suitable for children. I could still kind of enjoy it, but this thing, like, I don't know, like, it just like, I love Sonic X. I love the original Sonic cartoon as well. This is worth saying that I'm not like, "Oh my god, I just don't like the Sonic
Wait, when
character."
you
I like,
say original Sonic, which one though? Like
they're like,
the
they're, you like Chilli Dogs, like Sonic Says,
oh,
that kind
okay,
of
that one.
cartoon. You know
Okay,
what I
not
mean?
not the other one where it's like Mobius and Princess Sally.
Oh, that's isn't that Sonic Underground?
No, Sonic Underground's a different cartoon. So there was okay, so there's the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog,
Yeah,
and then there's like Sonic Saturday Morning, like Sat AM. So
yeah,
there's the one you like. I think that's the Adventures of Sonic. I'm
yeah. I'm
probably
pretty sure
wrong.
that's one. Okay, fair.
And then there's the one with Princess Sally where there's like a whole story, and it's basically the same one as the Archie comic universe.
Okay, yeah. I don't
So
think I've seen
that's the
that.
one where Robotnik has taken over, and Sonic and all the other main characters are like the resistance fighters.
Okay, yeah. I don't remember it. If that's the case, I just remember the one that ended with Sonic Says is the ones I remember.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, but
I'm
I
pretty
enjoyed
sure.
those. I could still like get on board with those sort of things.
Yeah, but
It's
that's because
like,
they're like old and cheesy, and you love cheesy stuff.
yeah, but this is like new and cheesy, and like
I wouldn't even say
no,
this was cheesy. This is
do you
just
not think? I thought it was
no.
fucking. Oh man, there's some parts of it where,
It could have been way
uh,
cheesier. I'm not gonna lie. It
yeah,
could have been way cheesier with the Sonic stuff. Like he didn't once say "gotta go fast." Yeah, he does the chili
nah,
dogs and
he
like
did, he does still like chili dogs.
there's a lot of the old cheese that they just left out. So it could have been a
Mm,
hundred times worse in that sense.
yeah, I don't know, man. I think this does fall into get. I guess there is more serious stuff there, but no, man. Like the runtime, I will give it this. The animation in it is clean as fuck. Like that is
Yeah,
really
it looked
clean.
cool.
Like it's fluid. Like who is it? The one who did this?
I have no idea.
Because I tell you what, it kind of reminds me of. It weirdly reminds me of Illumination. You know the guys
it
that did the
yeah, it
minions and stuff. Like
it
it
does
really look.
seem that way, but I don't know if it is.
I wouldn't think it is because obviously then they got like fucking Mario, they got Minions and Sonic, like fucking three massive franchises. We'll have to look into that. But
It says Wild Brain Studios, Man of Action, Netflix animation,
have they done anything previously? Because it looks really familiar. I
Man
don't
of.
know why, but it looks really freaking,
I don't know. I
yeah.
couldn't tell you on that one, but yeah, I will agree. It did look great. The only thing I have with the animation is sometimes it's, and this is like a Sonic thing in general.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just really hard to get us across that like sense of speed.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of the later episodes where he's like moving fast, and like
Hmm.
you know he's supposed to because they've done like speed lines and stuff, and it's like Sonic, but you're like, doesn't actually look like he's moving that fast though.
Yeah, it's I can get you where you're coming from with that. It's I just assume, like, like the infinite symbol that he has when he's running
Yeah,
sometimes. Is that like is that
that's like a normal thing. Like yeah,
that's normal for, yeah, yeah. I
that's a
feel like
normal
that's,
thing. It's I think because it's they're also trying to they incorporate a lot of stuff from like the games, and in the
yeah,
games
yeah.
like that's Sonic just sort of like
They
runs
do
like
have
that.
like 2D bits like occasionally, don't they?
Yeah,
Like 2D
a lot of
cutaways and
pixel
stuff.
art and like they mention the rings and stuff. Like they include some of like the game lore. Like in a later episode, Sonic's like, "Oh yeah, cool, we'll go fight Robotnik, but I've got to go get some rings just in case
Yeah,
he gets in
yeah.
a lucky hit." And you're like, "Oh,
And even
okay."
when he spawns in that other world, he's like, "Where are my rings?" and stuff like that. Like he runs through a few things.
So it's like I do appreciate that. Like they got the game references. Like they remember where they came from.
Yeah, there's just like some I don't know why, but this series I just found it really hard to get into. Like, obviously, I stopped halfway through the first episode, and then the second time watch, like I even with the cliffhanger of the first episode, like if you watch it, it ends with Shadow turning up.
Yeah.
That's like, "Oh, okay, I could watch it, but like I'd rather be watching something else." That's how I felt with it. Like it's rare for me not to actually give something a second episode chance, like at least, but I think the runtime is the thing that really did me in here. The fact that I'd get to a certain point and be like, "Is this not over yet?" And then they'd be like, "Oh, you've got like about 20, 15 minutes to go." And I'm like, fucking Jesus Christ. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't need to be that long.
No, it doesn't. It could have been like a
Yeah.
half hour and still been fine. It could have cut out a fair few bits.
It's good to see other characters like Big in there as well. That's quite cool.
I That is probably this
Yeah.
series' like biggest praise. It does shine a light on a lot of the other characters. Like it is about Sonic, but the main theme I realized on second watch is that it's Sonic going through the Shatterverse and realizing what he actually has. So he's like learning
Mhm.
to actually appreciate the people around him
Yeah.
because like in a lot of the episodes he'll get a flashback and it'll be like one of his friends told him something or they were doing something and he at the time is just like yeah, but I'm Sonic and the world is perfect, so we don't have to do that. And then he goes off
Yeah.
and does his own thing, and you see a lot of his friends sort of being like, for fuck's sake, I get it, but like, can you not just rely on us a little more? Like, we're friends, but like, you know what I mean? Like, they get a bit peeved at him. And like, each time he goes to another place, he ends up learning to like respect another character in a different way.
One thing, like in this series, I picked up on as well is Knuckles always supposed to be dumb.
That's like a no, that's like a new thing that they brought over, and it's
Yeah.
sort of stuck around since like Sonic Boom, where Knuckles is a bit more of a meathead. I don't like
Yeah.
that.
That's something I picked up on as well. I was like, that kind of jarred me because again, coming from the Sonic X days, where it was like, so like Knuckles has actually had like he's pretty fucking smart at the same time.
The
He's
like the
active.
only thing that Knuckles had from like the original days was that he was gullible. Like the first time you see him, he's against Sonic because Eggman tricks him into thinking Sonic is going to steal the Master Emerald. So like, I guess that's how they extrapolated it to Knuckles is dumb
Hmm.
because it's like, oh, gullible. And I thought it was weird though that Sonic is the only character that has like an original voice. You know, like a voice we've heard before, and every other character is sort of just a new voice.
I mean, saying that, I didn't pick up on that. But they've done a pretty good job of like kind of replicating that in like the other characters because I honestly didn't pick up on that
I
at
mean,
all.
maybe I did because I just, Sonic fan.
Mm,
So, like, it's just strange to me because I was like, Amy doesn't sound like that. Although, like, normally Amy's voice is a little more grating, and like Tails is a different voice. But then, why did they make the effort to bring Tails back for the second movie, live action film, but then not the voice for Sonic Prime? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of weird to have that knowledge of some
yeah.
voices came back and some haven't in different projects, and I'm just sort of would
I
I
mean,
don't understand why.
with that kind of case, it's like also quite weird in the fact that like obviously in Sonic 2, the live action, you have Knuckles in there, but that's voiced by Idris Elba.
Yeah,
So
Knuckles'
that's a
voice is like changed several times. Like,
yeah.
I don't think he's the only time I think Knuckles has had the same voice actor or someone who sounds very similar to what I remember is Sonic Forces. I think that's the most
Yes.
recent game where he's had basically the same voice.
It's like what you said though, like like I feel with the characters here. you kind of just need to have like a certain personality with the voice to actually make it work, which is probably why I haven't picked up on it, in the fact that certain characters like Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, like they all have like that kind of like, oh, we need this kind of character to be portrayed in this voice. For example,
Yeah.
Knuckles, like you said, is a meatheady kind of character, tough guy. So you need like a probably a bit more serious on that, like a bit more depth, like a deeper thing to compare to Sonic or Tails. Tails is kind of like a shrill, kind of high pitched, like kid kind of voice, and then Amy is kind of just like, well, it's Amy in it. It's not too far. Yeah,
I preferred
you don't
Amy's
need to
voice
go.
in this series because, like, normally Amy's voice when she comes into any game, I'm like, for fuck's sake, why? Why
Yeah,
is it just destroying my eardrums? For
I
fuck's
think
sake.
it's there's certain kind of characters which you can tell their voice differently, and you would really be able to pick up on it. But this time, I feel, especially in Sonic, I feel like you can kind of get away with it a bit more. No, I didn't pick up on it, but I think it's because it ticks a certain box at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And
it they did the new voices did fit the vibe of the characters,
yeah,
especially for this current series. So it was
exactly. Yeah,
like it wasn't such a big gripe, but it was just like a curious question for me, like
yeah.
because again, that is Sonic. There's
Mm,
no doubt that's the same Sonic from the games, right? The one we heard for ages, and that's what makes it more confusing. Is that it's like you recast every other character, but then
mm.
Sonic is the same. I mean, probably Eggman is the same or similar, right? But then
Yeah.
that it's like so. But why those two characters? Because even Shadow sounds different.
I wasn't like, Shadow only had about 2 seconds of screen time
Yeah,
in the
okay for
first
you,
episode,
but
so
like
for me it's a bit harder to tell that one. But
the in a later episode, Shadow's in it for much longer and
mhm.
speaks a fair bit, and it's enough that you're like, okay, he sounds different. It's not quite the same. Again, it fits that vibe, so you're like, yeah, it's that Shadow, right? But to me, I'm like, that's not the same voice actor.
Fair. Let's talk about story for a bit, because obviously I only watched the first episode, but you said
Yeah,
it's the Shatterverse, so this is Sonic going across multiple universes. So obviously, the only bit I've seen is where he goes into a future where Eggman kind
into
of takes
New
over.
York City.
Yeah, New York City, and like it's where Eggman's taken over, and then there's like a rebel kind of thing,
Yep.
all sorts. Like, is there actual multiple universes across this, or is it just set in that one universe?
No, there's multiple. So
Okay.
there's New York City. There's like a
Mhm.
prehistoric time,
Mm.
and there's a pirate universe.
Right.
So New York City is kind of interesting because it's where Eggman. It's not just Eggman. It's they haven't explained it. They call themselves the Council, but it's
Mhm.
all just different versions of Eggman. There's an old man Eggman. There's the
Yeah.
current version Eggman. There's teenage Eggman. There's like weeb Eggman because he's he's into Japanese stuff and he's got like yakuza tattoos or whatever. So I call him weeb Eggman. And then there's baby Eggman, which is weird.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember that bit. I remember the council turning up. I remember that.
yeah. So there's the council, and then they take over everything. Um, just because the shard appeared, but like all these universes basically came into existence at the exact moment Sonic shattered the paradox prism. But only he has the ability to sort of go through on contact with another shard because it's like fucking stuck to his shoes. In that universe, all the characters are fucking different. Rouge and Knuckles are rebels.
Mhm.
Tails is a weird loner who calls himself Nine now because he's got 9 mechanical tails. Um, Amy is a cyborg called Rusty Rose who works for the council. Big is just big.
Yeah,
He's
just in like a weird prisoner outfit.
yeah,
Still got Froggy with him though.
yeah. I do appreciate though that Big is not just like in the games just running around going, Froggy, I need my friend Froggy. Cause oh my god, that I'd
Yeah,
hate
he's got
Big.
Froggy. That's it. That's an open and shut case. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, so Sonic helps out the rebels and then he disappears because he comes in contact with the shard. And then he goes into the next world or the next universe, which is like a prehistoric one. where there's
Hmm.
loads of trees and shit, but most of the main characters live above the trees because that version of Amy has gone completely fucking nuts and they're scared of her. They call her the monster. And it's because basically the rest of the characters, Rouge, Knuckles, Tails, Big, they were taking too many of the natural resources without taking time to replant them. So at some point, like prehistoric Amy is just like, "Fuck you guys, you're killing everything," and then she just beats them with a hammer.
Right.
She loses her mind basically, and then she loses sight of what it is. Um,
Okay.
and then Sonic basically gets them to talk. He mediates between them and then disappears and goes into pirate universe where he freaks
Right.
out for the obvious. It's all
What?
water and he can't swim.
Uh huh.
That's where the rest of the characters are Knuckles' crew, Knuckles
Right.
the Dread,
Uh huh.
and they all speak like pirates, and it's kind of fun. Um, that
Right.
universe is probably my favorite so far because of
Uh
how
huh.
different it was. Um, but basically, in each universe, Sonic deals with one of the main characters and solves their helps to solve their problem, but like also learns to appreciate that person better.
Yeah. Okay, so from what you've described, this just sounds like the story arc is basically a massive learning curve for Sonic himself by going into different scenarios, be like learning, oh shit, this is how I could have treated my mates differently, and that he treats his mates differently, and then realistically, it's all gonna come to an end where it's gonna be like, let's work together better, guys, and then it's
The
gonna be
thing is,
fine.
if there's more episodes, I don't see the potential of more universes because I don't really see him learning anything from another alternate universe Rouge
Yeah.
for whatever reason. I don't see him learning a lesson from that. And he's definitely not going to go into a universe where he learns anything from Big because in every universe Big is just the massive dumb guy. Like we complained about Knuckles being a dumb guy, but Big is literally just the big dumb guy.
Plus, Big's like very much like a side character at this point. You can tell like the main characters here are definitely like Tails, Amy, Rouge,
If
Knuckles, and
Sonic's the
Shadow.
main character, like your A character, all the other characters are like your B list characters.
Yeah,
And then somehow Big is a C or D list character.
yeah. So is Shadow more part of this? Like, is Shadow something that like?
Shadow is he uses chaos control at the exact moment that the paradox prism shatters.
Mhm.
So Shadow is actually sort of stuck in the space in between.
Right.
And
Okay.
the reason I say that it ended on a cliffhanger on episode 8 is because every time Sonic has traveled to another universe, he can hear sort of like this reverb ghost version of Shadow because he's that's the only time he can interact with Sonic. And
Right.
Shadow has realized, and you find out at the end of episode 8 that there is no original universe. Sonic has been traveling from universe to universe trying to find his way home. And what
Mhm.
Shadow has said is, because of what you did, there is no home. Our home doesn't exist because you fucked it. It's the
Mhm.
origin point of the paradox prism, but because you shattered the prism and created all these universes, we don't have a home universe.
Okay. So this is more like an end to like a season one rather than like a
Yeah,
mid-season break kind of thing.
it
Th-
might be an end to season one or mid season break, but that's just where it ends. He literally says,
Yeah.
"We have no home, and it's your fault," and then it ends. That's it. Credits roll. So like, whatever happens afterwards is
Mhm.
probably either more learning and then problem solving, like wrapping up the series, or it's just going to wrap it up because again, there's only like two more friends to go through. And the Eggman Council have stolen the shard back from 9 and are now traveling
Mhm.
through the universes. So that's like another little plot going on because they appear in Pirate Universe, like Rusty Rose appears in Pirate
Mhm.
Universe. So that now they know how to travel universes. So it could evolve into a bigger thing, or Sonic is gonna figure it out and probably like sellotape all the shards together, and then it's like, oh, I can go home now. I don't know,
Okay.
but like, yeah, overall, I thought it was okay. I think I watched it mostly because I was hoping it'd be the revival. You know, like it's definitely better than Sonic Boom. I never watched it, but
See,
like,
I know Sonic Boom just from like the memes. I'm quite tempted to watch Sonic Boom just because it sounds like the stuff that comes from it is just absolutely ridiculous. I think
yeah.
there's I'm in two minds about it. I'm sure it is the whole franchise of Sonic Boom is probably like a bad mistake.
Look, I know some people out there probably like Sonic Boom, but
Yeah, regarding the games, I don't think
not. Oh, it's not even just the games. To me, the whole thing is like the low point. Sonic Boom is the worst part of the
Ar
franchise.
arguably though, I hear like when I've the bits I've seen anyway, the jokes and the humor of Sonic Boom are actually things I did laugh at. I think some of them were actually like actually quite jokes from the cutscenes I've seen. I think the writing of this show probably is better than the concept itself. However, I don't know if I could watch a whole series of it just because I know the fact that I don't really appreciate the source material. The writing I can appreciate in with some of the certain jokes, but
Knowing the internet, you've probably seen all the best bits through memes, and everything else is just no. There's no point seeing
it's
it.
the same thing via Ghost Stories, I imagine. Because I think Ghost Stories I thought was quite jokes from the memes, but then watching a whole series of it is quite jarring. I imagine it might be a very similar situation for Sonic Boom.
I'd imagine it's the
Um,
exact same situation. To be fair,
yeah. My one thing about that is that at least I've laughed at some points of Sonic Boom. Sonic Prime, I got no enjoyment out of it whatsoever, and still had no interest in carrying on the series. So, if I'm gonna say anything on this, I found the whole experience quite boring. But that isn't to say that not everyone's gonna have the same opinion as me. Obviously, like you enjoyed it clearly to watch it
yeah.
twice. um, but like for me, like is a combination of runtime and the story and like some of the jokes just falling flat. Like for me, it was just like, I really wouldn't recommend this, but that's just me. That's my
I
opinion
mean,
on that.
it's. I think it's an interesting concept. But I've always kind of enjoyed good multiverse because there's so many things that can differ, and if you do it in an interesting way, you can really grab like the viewer's attention. And I think this has got like a solid basis for some cool ideas.
Hmm.
And I personally would like to see it continue because I do kind of want to know what other universes have been created from this incident, and also how you're going to fix it. Because Sonic actually has no control over where he goes, or like the only thing he can control is when, and that's because he has to physically make contact with part of the prism. So like, I'd be interested to know how they're going to fix it. But because it's called Sonic Prime, this might be a an issue that never is solved. Also, because it like it conjures up how in Sonic Underground, even though they met their mum many times, like the whole point is the show was that they were trying to find their mum, and it's kind of like every time she would dodge and be like, "Oh, this isn't the moment, not yet, not
Yeah,
yet,"
yeah.
almost like Homer and his mum, right? It's always just sort of like, "Yeah, but not yet." So
Yeah.
I feel like this could also run into that problem where it's like, "Oh, we're almost home, but not yet. Just one more universe."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it doesn't fall into some of the Sonic tropes or TV tropes or whatever, like, but it probably will. And I'm, I'm still interested to keep watching until I get bored of it. That could be very soon, or it could be a long time from now. I think if you're a big enough Sonic fan, I think it's worth watching. Just because, again, you get to see your favorite characters, you get to see new worlds, and I feel like sometimes some of those worlds are like references to other things. Because, like, prehistoric world is reminiscent of Sonic Boom, where they're a bit more rustic and like prehistoric y. And then New York City kind of reminds me of Sonic Forces. So, I can't say pirate universes remind me of anything, but I want to see more of pirate universe. I'm not gonna lie, like,
Pirate Universe is just there, by the
dude,
sounds of it.
it, I
Yeah.
loved pirate universe because it's just so random. You're just like, what? Why? Why pirate universe after the like after two very like stereotypical ones, and then it's just like, oh, okay, cool. Now they're pirates and they talk like pirates, and that's it.
Fair. I mean, if you want to go through different universes, I don't know if there's anything.
The only other universe I could see making sense, just because the council can travel through universes. If there's a Weeb universe, as in like just a Japan themed one, so that Weeb Eggman could just freak out and be like, "Oh my
Yeah,
god!"
yeah, probably some kind of like I don't know, samurai kind of like
Yeah, because I
Edo
mean,
period kind of
they
vibe.
all the council have their own like robots, and it's all sort of like themed over their thing. And Weeb Eggman has just like an exoskeleton and two katanas, and he's got like a top knot, and he's got a sleeve to be like, "Ooh, I'm like
Yeah, it just makes
Yakuza."
sense to go for like some like feudal Japan thing
Yeah, right.
then.
So then that'll probably be it, and then he'll freak out and have a great time, and then get his ass kicked and get sent back. But yeah, it's I think it's fine. They've set an okay, like decent foundation for a show, and it could continue to be a pretty decent show. But they do need to fix some things. A shorter runtime for definite, because even as a pretty big Sonic fan, I could not pay attention for that long. There's a lot of in between parts that you just don't need to know. You just don't need to see.
Yeah, fair. I think like the show definitely has its pros and cons. Like it's not perfect for sure, but yeah. I mean, it's quite rare. Like, no, I wouldn't say rare, but like kind of like it's interesting we have like different opinions this vastly on it. But that's always a good thing. So that's always
Yeah.
not a bad thing. But yeah, is there anything else you have to say on it, Nathan, at all?
um, I guess the only thing I would say is I know they've sort of done like traveling through like timelines and stuff in the Sonic games before,
Hmm.
but this does make me want like to see what they could do with a game like this. Like
Mm.
traveling through multiverses, like where things are slightly different and Sonic might not have existed in those worlds.
Mm. It does sound like quite a good concept, you know.
Like, considering what they've done with like Frontier, they could have it sort of sandboxy open world, maybe with a bit of RPG element. Maybe not too heavy on it, but like I'd be interested to see something like that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it could be really cool.
I agree. Yeah, like something like I could see like a good story coming from it. Um, but yeah, yeah, you can just wait and see because obviously Frontier's still quite new, and I believe there's probably some DLC coming for it. I
Yeah, but
imagine.
Frontier is like set in that like cyber universe.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
I
there's a
mean,
whole bunch. I don't expect it to be like DLC for Frontier. I mean, like in
yeah,
terms of like a game after it of some sorts, there could be
true,
some
true.
leeway there.
Frontier has
Like,
opened up like the possibility of like a weird digital portal
yeah.
thing.
I mean, even like the concepts of just an entirely new game. I mean, like if they were going
Yeah,
to do
true.
something like that,
That is true.
I don't feel like that kind of thing could fit into Frontiers right now. Frontiers got its certain style about it, and
No,
they probably have like some sort of thing planned out for DLC.
it's not so
But
much that I think
yeah,
it would fit into Frontier. I just think that Sega always tries to make like a franchise out of everything Sonic. They try to turn it into like the next big Sonic thing.
hmm,
And what with the sort of success of Frontier, I just feel like if this was to be like a thing, like a game, it probably would end up just being like part of a Frontier sort of franchise or
just a
like
quick
series.
side note kind of thing. Was Frontiers actually any good? Like, did it actually get well received? Because I remember playing the demo and it was quite fun. But
I From
did it
what I
actually do well?
saw, it did fairly well. The only thing is a lot of people, and this is a complaint about most open world games. Most people say that it's like when there is stuff to do, there's stuff to do, but like a lot of the in between feels like the world is dead.
Yeah.
But I mean, what open world game have you seen in modern times where they haven't said the exact same thing? Like, oh, when you've
Yeah.
got missions and stuff, it's great, but like, feels like the world's a bit empty. Like,
Yeah, like,
what do you
it's
want?
that's the sort of thing with open world games. You do come into that problem, and I feel like I don't know there's only a certain amount of stuff
Well,
you
like,
can do
you either get that,
before like
or
crashing or something like
exactly right.
that.
You either get it complaining about the world's dead, or you get the complete opposite, where they're like a Ubisoft game and they're like, there's too much shit to do and none of it matters. Like, there's loads of stuff to do, but I don't want to do it. And you're like, well, then what do you want? Okay,
Mm.
where's the happy medium in that? You fucks. God damn it.
Yeah. There you go. That's no one's ever gonna be happy. But yeah, fair enough, man. Is that anything? Is
But yeah,
that
thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, leave us a comment about what you thought about Sonic Prime, or any ideas you have for maybe like a Sonic multiverse game. I'd be interested to see that. Follow us on Twitter and check us out on podcast platforms. All the links are in the description. And we'll catch you for another Cultured Boys. Bye.
Bye.